now we are going to start a session together. Okay, I'm a little bit small, so perhaps you don't really see me, so I will try to move around a little bit. So hello everyone, I'm Umji from Encode Club. We are offering boot camps and hackathons and accelerator for the developers and also non-tech audience as well. So if you're interested, you can search Encode Club on Twitter. Today we are going to talk about Avalanche together. So I kind of try to prepare the high-level overview about the Avalanche. So let's dive into it and let me know if there's some questions. We can talk about it later. Let's start with some simple questions. So I just like to understand whom I'm talking to. So how many of you has a crypto wallet? Okay, so at least all of you are not completely new to blockchain. Of course, to come to this conference, you must be. How many of you already have the Avalanche AVAX token? Okay, quite some of you. Do you have any NFT on Avalanche? No, so then you must apply to the other one from the Maute. He was showing the Goya, which is the NFT fine art on Avalanche, so you must try. So today, we will go into a little bit more about what is Avalanche and how it works and its ecosystem. So Avalanche is a blockchain platform and a cryptocurrency that has developed a reputation as a rival of the Ethereum. So maybe you may see some word like Avalabs and Avalanche, and what is the difference of it? So Avalabs is the developers behind the Avalanche, and Avalanche is the protocol itself. So if you meet some staffs around, they are working for Avalabs. And the CEO is the Amin Gyun-Sira, the professor from the Cornell University. And he's the one who is building all this consensus protocol with brilliant people. AVAX is the native token of Avalanche. Some of you already have it in your wallet. So this is the utility token, and this is the one you can stake, for example, to participate the consensus, or you are using it to paying the fees and so on. So the key difference between Avalanche and other protocols is the consensus mechanism. So a proof of stake, you heard about it. Perhaps there's a lot of different protocols also maybe are building on proof of stake. But Avalanche has its unique consensus protocol, which Avalanche consensus. And we're going to talk about it a little bit about it, to touching how it works. And I will show you soon about it. And then subnet. So users are able to build in layer 1 and layer 2 blockchain on top of the Avalanche. I know that there's a lot of jargons coming here. Perhaps some of you may wonder, what is the subnet exactly, and what is the consensus? But let's say today our goal is to get the feeling of what Avalanche about and what is in general doing. So if you understand everything perfectly now, perhaps you need to go to the dev track, not here. But if you feel oh, I get it, but not sure, it's totally normal. And if you have more questions, we can talk over the lunch. And another interesting thing is Avalanche C-Chain, which we're going to talk about it a little bit later, is the Ethereum virtual machine compatible. So that means that you can bridge over the Ethereum assets, or also you can use the same tools as if you are building on Ethereum. So we talked about what does Avalanche do differently. This is the consensus. So Avalanche has the Avalanche consensus protocol. And let's think about how this consensus protocol would work. So now we are at breakfast time. So let's decide our lunch menu together. And there's two different options, pizza and barbecue. Maybe all of you are thinking about it, if I'm going to choose pizza or barbecue, and we're going to go into how we're going to decide the menu together. Our goal is we need to reach the certain consensus that we're going to order all same menu together. So please don't freak out. This is not real code, so we're going to go through the steps together. So what happened is, here I'm going to choose just a K number of people and asking, hey, do you want to eat pizza or barbecue? And you're going to give me an answer, and there is the more than alpha number of people saying that, hey, I want to have a pizza. Then I said that, okay, because majority want to have a pizza, I want to have a pizza as well. And then we do this multiple times till each time the consecutive answer that some groups saying pizza reach the certain size of the number called beta, the threshold. So in Avalanche, there's like a 20 is set as a beta, so that you need to have a consecutive, the same result 20 times. And another interesting part is like this direct acrylic graph. We're gonna talk about it a little bit about it, not into deep. So what happened is, if you think about typical blockchain like Bitcoin or Ethereum, you may think about this like linear chain. But like Avalanche has this direct acrylic graph model. So each vertex can have multiple parents or multiple children. There's kind of misconception could come is, this arrow means that they're coming the next one. It doesn't mean that they're dependent to each other in application level. So you don't need to really use the result from the behind one to be in this graph. And another interesting is sub-voting. We already talked about it, that when I'm asking you that how many people want to have a pizza or barbecue to check, I will not ask to everybody to propagate till all the room till behind. I will ask randomly choosing like a K number of people. And this is the subsampled voting. And you are doing it this randomly multiple times till you reach the consecutive 20 times of success, which means that it doesn't matter if you have a group of people, 100 here, or 20,000, you need to just ask a K number of people, so certain groups, till you reach the level of 20 success number. So this is like a digit we just talked about, and you already know all what it means. So the N is the group of the people who are here, and K is the sample number. So we're gonna choose like a 20 people to ask, which is the Avalanche Consensus Protocol now has. And then the A is the quorum size, that 14 people need to have a same answer so that it become a consensus. And then you are asking another round and another round till it have a consecutive answers. Then you reach the beta number, which is a 20. So if 20 times we have a consecutive answer as a pizza, we go to eat pizza together. This is how it generally looks in the graph. So we just gonna go through the same system, just here it's not written as a pizza, it says transactions, and of course it's not binary options only, it can be a lot of different results. And then, so transaction is issued, and like a first one is asking, is it valid or not? If it's invalid, it will be ignored at first place. But if you said it's valid, okay, let's ask to the samples. And then you have a sample voting now coming into it. You are choosing like a K validators and asking that, what is your opinion? And then you're gonna do this till you reach the certain number of threshold beta. So what happened if the next answer was barbecue, even though our first answer was pizza? Then it goes back to the turn number one, the success number one, and it will be asking again. And if the answer is barbecue, then you start to count, get 1, 2, till 20. So if it keeps changing, it cannot really go to the actual threshold, then you will not have an actual consensus. So you can, if you go to the website, you're gonna see some kind of simulation tool to see. I didn't bring it today because I didn't want to go into too much. But what I wanted to say here is, depending on how you choose your group size, sample size, and the quorum size, it doesn't matter how much N number of validators are actually in the group. You can always making a decision very, very quick, and it will be propagating very quick. Okay. Another interesting thing about the Avalanche Consensus Protocol is transitive voting. What it means. So we already see the graph of the DAG, which is not typical linear blockchain. So it has a kind of multiple parents. So what it happened is not that different from actual blockchain. Actual blockchain sounds weird, so linear blockchain, so that if you voted on certain result in D, it means that you voted same result to like A and B and C, so it's kind of, you agreed on what A and B and C agreed on before by agreeing on what D is saying. So it's kind of giving you confidence to your incidents, and then it makes it much easier to scale because you don't need to vote 4 times, you need to vote 1 time, and then actually it's going to be 4 votes, right? Because A and B and C are going to have these success number as well. And again, if you're a little bit confused, it's all normal. It's really, really difficult topic, I think. And if you feel like, I remember I understand everything, please talk to Avalanche. Perhaps they're going to hire you right away. Okay, and then another thing is a Snowman consensus protocol. So Avalanche is actually having like 3 different blockchains together. We're gonna look into it later. And these three blockchain is using different protocol a little bit. Snowman consensus protocol is same as Avalanche consensus protocol, but the linear version. So it's using it's powered by Avalanche consensus protocol. It goes through similar consensus mechanism, but just it's in linear version, and it's implemented for platform chain and then contract chain. We're gonna check it together soon. So that instead of the typical direct acrylic graph, it has a linear one, which is very familiar to you, I assume. So it has a one parent and one child, so it cannot have a more multi-vertices together. So that it has a high throughput and it's totally ordered, which is important for platform orchestration or like having a contracts, smart contracts. So you can see here that contracts and network orchestration needs an absolute ordering. So how to say? So Avalanche consensus protocol in general was used for exchange chain, which we're going to check it together again, which is taking care of the trading of the assets. But not like that for the platform orchestration or the smart contract. You need to validate like all the history backwards so that it's important to have the absolute order. So the overall result is Avalanche is very fast so that it's able to permanently confirm transaction in under 1 second. And also, it can scale very quick thanks to this direct acrylic graph model, so that it's taking care of the 4,500 transactions per second. And without compromising any security. This is one of the most important part of the blockchain. Also, it's quite flexible, so the Avalanche allow, you can make any private blockchain on top of it, so it's quite flexible to build your own chain. And it's a sustainable, as also Marcus mentioned, that it's own proof of staking mechanism. As we said, you can create your own public or private blockchain on top of it. We will not go into deep, but we will talk about what is the advantage of it later soon. And also, due to substantially lower gas fee, so it's really, really designed for finance, or recently it became very popular for the games. So you heard about some words about subnets. We will not go into deep because we're going to have actually what is subnet session later with Giacomo from Avascan. So here we're going to touch just what is subnet about a little bit. And then I hope that this is going to prepare you for the afternoon session. So subnet is a set of validators working to achieve consensus together on state of a set of blockchain. So each blockchain is validated by exactly one subnet, but subnets actually can validate like many different blockchains. And if you're a node provider, so node can be a member of many different subnets. So here, like you don't need to remember everything by heart because this is going to be available on documentation. Just let's try to get the feeling together. So this subnet can manage its own membership. So subnet gonna have a different nodes, and if you're a node provider, if you want to join there, each subnet can set up the membership with a certain conditions. Why is it important? So this architecture makes regulatory compliance manageable so that you can perhaps set up that, oh, we need a KYC if you want to join, or we need a certain node in a certain geographical area. So this customization is giving you to making your own private chain easily with a certain compliance. So if you want to have a private blockchain with a compliance built in, this is like a fantastic platform because you can customize all the rule sets. And due to that, it has a kind of inbuilt separation. So if you're, for example, there's some validators doesn't want to validate all the blockchains, right? So you can kind of decide which one to validate. It means that you have a less burden on validators, which also make it much faster and also efficient. Now, let's talk about another word. Perhaps you heard it a lot, EVM or AV, Avalanche VM, the virtual machine. So what is VM? So in this context, VM is the application level logic of blockchain. So what does it really mean? So it's kind of the blueprint. So it's specifying the blockchain state transition functions, transaction, and API through which users can interact with it. So it's something like you have the basic blueprint to build on. You can a little bit customize. So every blockchain on Avalanche is an instance of VM. And then you can kind of differ the lower level logic. So for example, like networking or consensus, because you bring the blueprint already have those, you can differ it and you can build your own customization on top of it. But at the same time, you're gonna wonder like, why would you want to use different VM? Because also Avalanche support you to make your own VM. The reason is you can optimize the particular sets of decentralized application. So you can build your own VM, which is the most fitting one for your use case. And you can write VMs in Go at the moment. And Avalanche is planning on supporting more language. So if you are a Web2 developer who used to develop something in different language, so it will be also quite easy to jump in and building your own VM. So how does Avalanche work? We already talked about several things. Now we're going to go through the concept we already talked about a little bit more in detail. So we said that the Avalanche has 3 different blockchain in one. It has a, let's say, primary network first. And this, we're going to have this graph. It's going to help you. So this primary network. So first, the primary network is like validating and secured by all these blockchains are validated and secured by the primary network. So this is how we look like. So primary network is validating all these different chains, which is the exchange chain, platform chain, and contract chain. And exchange chain has this Avalanche consensus protocol. You can see that it's kind of not linear model, and it's taking care of the creating the assets or trading the assets. And then the platform chain is like linear model that you can build all different custom chain on top of it. And contract chain is the one who taking care of the smart contract and EVM compatible. So you can see that like the NFTs or like a certain tokens you can be using on that chain. So primary network, what primary network is doing? So it's a kind of special subnet, and all the subnets should belong to this primary network. And this is kind of different if you're thinking about, oh, maybe I heard about like a parachain from Polkadot or like a Tendermint with the Cosmos. The difference is in Avalanche, all the subnets should be belong to the primary network together. So all members of any custom subnet is a member of primary network, and at least 2,000 AVAX to be staked to become a member of the primary network. So you need to stake it. So let's go into different chains, what they're doing. So exchange chain. So this is like creating and then trading the digital assets. So if you want to make some assets on Avalanche protocol, then you need to create it on this chain. And you can see that this chain is using this DAG model, which is quite different from the other ones. And when you have a successful transition happening, it's generating fees. It's let's say take the analogy from the gas fee from the Ethereum. It's like that, and this is paid in AVAX token, which is the native token of the Avalanche. And platform chain. So platform chain is the default subnet. So when you're creating the subnet, this is like default model 1. So this one is kind of metadata blockchain. So this is like orchestrating the networks. It coordinates the validators and keep track of them. And then for creating subnets, adding validators to subnets, creating blockchains, this platform chain is being used. And this is run on Snowman consensus protocol we learned about. So it's a linear model for this orchestration. And another chain left is the contract chain. This contract chain is for creating smart contract, which means that this is like EVM compatible. And EVM compatible means that you can bring like all the dApps you're using on Ethereum, which means that also you can bring the assets from Ethereum and you can use the dev tool you are using on Ethereum. So you can port over existing workflows, such as, for example, you use Truffle here to test and deploy smart contracts, or using Hard Hat, so they use development and testing environment for Solidity smart contracts. So if you know how to do Solidity, it's pretty easy to jump on. And Remix also to deploy smart contract. But Remix is relies on MetaMask, so that you need to use both together. And as we said, so you can kind of having a bridge that you can bring the assets from the Ethereum chain to Avalanche, means that like a lot of deep liquidity from Ethereum DeFi protocol could easily move to Avalanche. So actually, I didn't check the actual value today, but roughly like Ethereum grew so in 2021, when Ethereum grew like around like 5 times, like Avalanche asset grow like more than 2,000 times because you could easily bridge over to Avalanche, and that's the time like when Avalanche start to gain more reputation of the rival of the Ethereum and very strong at DeFi and GameFi. Avalanche has a very interesting explorer. There's like 2 main things being used. One is Snow Trace, and another one is Avascan. I thought this would be quite nice if you can check it together, so actually I prepared this tab here. So here you can see the Snow Trace. Snow Trace is the explorer for the C chain, which is the contract chain. So you can see there like all the transactions happening on C chain. And then another one is the Avascan. Maybe some of you may say that, oh, this is a little bit familiar with something. Yes, it's familiar with perhaps Etherscan. If you're familiar with it, you recognize some similarity here. So this Avascan is for all different chains. You can see P chain, X chain, and C chain here. Also all the subnets here, very interesting. If you go to the old chains, there's a lot of different subnets you can see. Here, you can perhaps you already know DeFi Kingdom. So recently, DeFi Kingdom extended to Avalanche chain, which we're going to talk about in the afternoon about Web3 Gaming. So you can see all the chains here in the Explorer. So now let's talk about Avalanche Ecosystem a little bit. What kind of projects are on top of it? Of course, there's so many projects, so we cannot talk about everything. We're gonna I will introduce some main ones, and especially the game ones, we're gonna introduce them more in detail later in the afternoon. So May 2022, when I checked it, there was over 500 projects up and running. And then there's like a Blizzard fund is like heavily investing into the ecosystem with a 200 million. And then there's a developer fund. So if you're Web2 developers here thinking about which ecosystem to jump in, perhaps this is going to be very interesting news. There's like $180 million of the developer funds. So if you're a builder, perhaps this is a nice timing to build something, regardless to market situation. Avalanche is very strong for DeFi, so you may heard about Trader Joe or like a Pangolin or Banky. So these are different exchange. Perhaps like it's better to go to the website and try a little bit. Avalanche has a like extremely low gas fee, so I strongly recommend to try some transactions and then try to like mint something, and this is the best way to learn. Another thing is like Web3 Gaming. We're going to talk about some games in the afternoon, but just to introduce certain names. So there's like Crabada, which is like crabs are fighting each other. And then Snail Trail, so there's a racing game with the snails. And then the Atlantis World is a social network on Avalanche. And there's a Tailcraft, which look like awesome, that this is a card game, something like a board game style. And then again, DeFi Kingdom, one of the famous play-to-earn game on Harmony. Now they have their own subnet, using the subnet technology, they have their own chain on Avalanche. And all these things are possible just because substantially lower gas fees. So that's the reason why I can easily say here that if you're not familiar to blockchain, just buy some token, try to transactioning something. I cannot say this so easily with Ethereum because maybe you want to buy $10 photo, maybe you need to pay like $80 of the gas. But in Avalanche, it's not like this. So maybe a few cents and you can just practice some transactions, you can try to buy something, and doing so, you will recognize that how it's easy to use, if there's some barriers, and this is like a nice practice to learn, and then maybe you can share with your fellows. So perhaps when you have a break here, you can share some context to each other, and maybe you can try it together, and you can share some feedback to me as well. So what future could be? Of course, we are all here in Avalanche workshop together, and Avalanche is one of strong blockchain. But I wouldn't say that like there are going to be only one chain survive in the end. And still, Ethereum is very good because there's like a huge, large developer community, and they're building a lot of devs, which is not bad for Avalanche because of this like contract chain. They can still like port over a lot of workflows or different smart contract dApps So let's say I think the future could be there are going to be a lot of interesting, strong blockchains, maybe having a different strength on different theme. And then if you're a developer, why not to learn now and building on different chains? Just try out. And Avalanche is one of nice one to start with because of the low gas fee. You have a less burden, and because it's also EVM compatible. Perhaps you have a lot of learning materials on Solidity. If you're interested, Incode Club is also here as well. We are offering Solidity Bootcamp. So if you're interested in, please search us on Twitter so that you can get the order information as well. So my last things I would like to share here is let's build it. It doesn't matter if you're a developer or designer or, I don't know, business development person or project management. Now, it's time to build the things. We made a kind of little joke before that, a market situation, not very good, but I think this market situation is very good to build something because only ones who are really, truly interested in this ecosystem and believe in certain tech advancement on it, going to be staying together and build together. So this is nice time to learn something. Even though you don't want to be a developer, perhaps it's nice to read some white paper, try to understand so that you can work together. And by time, we will need more and more non-tech people in blockchain as well. In the beginning, a lot of developers make a group and make some smart apps. But we talked about it, about UX research or designers or regarding the business. And also Marcus mentioned that we need to understand the market as well. So regardless to your background, it's really nice time to build together. If you're interested in, please follow us on Twitter so you can see all the events we are going. We are giving workshops, we are operating hackathons and accelerators. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask any question. Yes? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I can understand you.
I would be interested to understand a bit more about Avalanche from a business perspective. So how does it work for you to make money? And so from what parts of the network do you as an infrastructure provider kind of work and make money?
Okay. Actually, I heard you were asking questions just before the microphone. I could understand clearly. You are curious about business aspect, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And what was the last sentence? Can you?
Yeah, sure. So Avalanche as a business or as an organization, how do you make money from the network? And yes.
Oh, so I am not working for Avalanche, so I don't know inside of the business model. But what I assume is, so it's a substantially low, but you still pay the gas fee. So I assume that's the one of the. But this is more like a burning mechanism. I was telling Avalanche had these tokens, and when token is having a more value on it, it should have more assets sitting on the chain itself. And then when you are joining the consensus, you need to stake, and stake means that it may create some other types of yields. So that's something my guess. But again, so I am introducing the Avalanche, but I'm working for Incode Club, and the business model of Avalanche, I cannot give you a clear answer, but there are going to be a lot of Avalanche people, so it'd be nice to talk to them.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other question? Yes, Laura. Yeah.
That Avalanche is very fast and scalable, but also safe. Normally, there's always a trade-off between scalability, speed, and safety, decentralization. So could you elaborate a little bit more on that, how Avalanche is solving that?
Okay, so maybe let's go back to one graphic to show. So there's two major things. One is Avalanche has this a 3 different chain, so that each chain is specialized for their own activity, right? So the exchange chain taking care of the trade, trading the asset and creating the assets, and then platform chain you can build a blockchain on top of it, and the contract chain gonna be taking care of the smart contract. So first, this kind of make you much faster because you distribute the different tasks per chain, and which means that you don't have an overload on one chain only. And then another concept I would say is this is innovative DAG model. Here, yeah, here. So, because, excuse me that perhaps it's not exactly same as a deeper tag, because if you want to understand real consensus of the Avalanche, perhaps you need to go through like pages of the white paper and try to understand. But in a high-level view, this direct acrylic graph give you a little glimpse that normal blockchain has normal sounds weird. Okay, the user blockchain, the other ones, usually have like this linear model, means that you need to kind of wait for the next block and you cannot have a parallel computation, right? But in this case, because it allows to make different vertices working on different transactions at the same time in a batch, so that you can handle much more things at once. So one is you distribute, you kind of have a 3 different chain taking care of different things. And one is exchange chain is taking care of the creating the assets and trading asset in this direct acrylic model, so that it's much, much faster. And then another thing I would say is the Avalanche consensus protocol. When we look into this graph here, so depending on a certain protocol, so every protocol has a little bit different consensus mechanism. But like, for example, I can also say that to know your opinion, maybe we start from here and propagating like till the end of the room and try to check what is our consensus. Or like we try to check with a certain group, and then like if it's validated, we are asking different group. But Avalanche, what they did was like it has a sampling size, so you have a subsample. This make it again faster. So it doesn't matter you have like a 10,000 people here. You will ask only case sample, which is a 20 at the moment. So you ask the 20 node. So this curate validator is gonna be deciding the consensus together, and then you like very quick you repeat this like process. So in different protocols, instead of having this like sample size, they are kind of propagating. Then it could be slower. Not necessarily they are slower, so it can be different advantages they can have. But this subsampling is also helping scalability, because you can finish a lot of things very quick, and then DAG is helping you because you can handle things in the parallel, and then you have a 3 different chain so that they are focusing on their own activities, so no overload in one chain. I hope that it helps you a little bit. This is kind of the high-level overview that there's 3 advantages Avalanche has. And as I know so far, this is a really new concept by Amin Yoon professor. So it would be very interesting to read a little bit more if you're interested in this theory specific. Okay, 3 hands at the same time.
Yeah, that was very, very interesting what you've just mentioned with the 3 different layers. Maybe you can elaborate a bit more on Polkadot and Kusama, what they do, because they also work with these parachain auctions. So maybe you can compare it a bit and tell us a bit about the advantage and
I thought this was blockchain 101,
yeah.
And or you know, okay. So so let's say how to say. So Polkadot parachain, in that case, okay, so I don't know exactly about Polkadot parachain, but as I know so far, the biggest difference with the Avalanche subnets and the parachain, even though they're quite similar concept, is Avalanche subnets should belong to one primary network, so they're like it's kind of sharing its security, right, in this way. And then the parachain one, as I know so far, like each is kind of validated by one validator. So each parachain is it's kind of backed by like one each, and then they're kind of connected so that if you compromise one parachain, potentially the other can compromise as well. But I'm not saying that parachain is like a unsecure. It's just like a very different concept. And then Avalanche is more similar to Cosmos one, so that it's not like you are providing subnets. So for example, subnet from Avalanche is not like we are providing subnets. It's more like you can build your own subnets using their VM. And then it should belong to primary network. So you can build your own, but you need to belong to this group. And then like if you don't belong to this group, just you don't belong to the chain. And then Cosmos is also something similar that you can just build your own thing, then through IBC you can kind of get connected. So this is a high-level differentiation with the Polkadot parachain and then the Cosmos IBC, and then the Avalanche subnets. Yes?
So I couldn't understand the benefits of joining the primary network by staking 2,000 Avalanche tokens, actually. Is it only these staking rewards, or is it something else?
If you don't join, you can. It's a compulsory. You must join. So it's not a. So let's say by joining, if you are building a subnet, so it's a compulsory thing. So it's not like you can decide they must be in the primary network. So if you're building one, if you want to build one, you need to first kind of stake these 2,000 AVAX. And then what could be the benefit of it? So I wouldn't say like a benefit, but like why you need to be in primary is kind of for security reasons, I would say. Let me just check the time. Yes. Okay, so last question.
Can you tell us a bit more about how difficult it is to be a validator? Like how expensive is it, or do you need to, how much do you need to stake, or are there specific hardware requirements?
To be honest, that one I don't know exactly. So I think it's better if you go to the docs, they must have a written requirements to become a validator. What I think is, if you want to participate as a node, but then I think it depends on like which subnet you want to go, right? Because subnet, it says that like, subnet can have a customized membership. So it's not just about the money, but also it can happen that if I have like a subnet called, I don't know, Incode Club subnet, and then only, I don't know, Web3 degens can join, then you need to kind of prove that you are a Web3 degen. So each validator condition must be depending on the subnet. But if you're asking about the existing ones, like a primary network or like a kind of the existing subnets already, each conditions, I'm not so sure about it. Okay, so thank you for a lot of interesting questions. And if you have more questions, we can talk about it later.